Everyone, my name is Whitney and I'm a tax firm. Today we're going to talk about bookkeeping and small businesses. So a lot of people don't realize that poor bookkeeping practices can create a slew of issues for small business owners. We see it all the time. So some common problems that you're going to see if you are not properly doing your bookkeeping, you're going to pay a lot more in taxes. So you need to do proper bookkeeping in order to properly file your taxes. And oftentimes we'll have people come in, they've either been doing their bookkeeping themselves or they've had an unqualified person doing their bookkeeping. And we find expenses that they are not capturing. And that lack of claiming those expenses creates a massive tax liability. So they could be overpaying by 4 or 5, sometimes 6 figures in taxes because they're not capturing all of their expenses, right? The other area is there may be overclaiming of revenue. So their books are saying, hey, you've earned more money than you actually have. This is actually a common issue. A lot of people don't realize. So a lot of people, when they come in, they're extremely concerned about claiming all their expenses. Like, what can I write off? What can I claim? I heard this on TikTok. But there is a big issue with people overclaiming revenue. Sounds weird, but there's a massive problem with it. Some bookkeeping softwares make it very, very easy to overclaim revenue. And so you may be double counting revenue and you don't even realize it. And that creates a huge problem, right? So you're creating more taxes. And then in addition, you don't know how your business is doing. If you're using your profit and loss reports from your accounting software, and it's telling you that you're bringing in a lot more money than you're bringing in, you're going to think you're way more profitable. Okay. So that's a huge problem that we see that a lot of people don't realize. So getting accurate books for your taxes is a huge, huge issue. So I've pulled up here this publication 583. This is straight from the IRS website. And this is going to give you some information about how the IRS expects you to keep your books. Okay. And why you need to keep your books. So not only do we have this issue with calculating your taxes, but guess what? The information in this publication is what the IRS is going to expect you to have in the event of an audit. Small business owners, people who are self-employed, are way more likely to be audited than your average person. Okay, because you're self-reporting revenue, expenses, etc. The IRS is more likely to make money auditing a small business owner than they are to audit a W-2 employee. It's just the way it works, and the IRS knows that, right? So they are going to expect you to keep records, keep receipts. If you don't have solid bookkeeping, an audit could be a nightmare for you, okay? So publication 583 gives you a really good idea of what records you need to be keeping and why. The other issue here that we see is lending. If you go to get money, this right here is just from a website talking about Small Business Association or SBA loans. Okay, and this is what they say you need to prepare for your documents. You have to have good financial records. Okay, it says it becomes especially important with business loans. A lender's not going to lend you money to your business if they can't see how your business is making money. They can't see if it's successful. How successful is it? What does putting in more cash going to do for that business? Does it make sense for them to lend to you? They can't tell unless you have solid bookkeeping. Okay. So it's really important. You could block yourself from lending opportunities if you don't have good record keeping. Okay. Or you go to apply and they start looking in your books and they start asking more questions because things look weird. So it's really important for lending for you to have a solid set of books that are accurate. Selling your business is another issue. Selling or purchasing of businesses. If I have somebody who is purchasing a business, I want to know what's in that bookkeeping. I want to see the reports. I want to know, is it cash positive? What's on the balance sheet? What are we buying? How much cash is going to be needed to put in the business to operate, right? What is our overhead? What does this look like? Okay, you're going to tell me that you're making 6 figures. How? What is your revenue? What is your bottom line? All of that is going to come up when you go to sell your business. Okay, so making sure you have proper bookkeeping for when you sell your business or if you're buying a business is extremely important. Okay, so that's why it's important. So let's talk about 5 biggest mistakes that we see. Number one is commingling. So you have started a business and you don't have a separate business bank account. And now all of a sudden you have all of your business and personal stuff mixed into your personal accounts. It is so difficult to get accurate books that way because we can look at a bank statement, but I have no idea what you bought off of Amazon. Did you buy something for your pet dog or did you buy something for your business? I have no idea unless I go into your Amazon receipts, right? But how many vendors actually have a way for you to log in and view all your orders, right? What if I have a bunch of Walmart purchases? I could be buying ink for my printer, or I could be buying, the shampoo. Shampoo is not deductible, ink is. Okay. Shampoo is not deductible unless you're like operating a salon. There are some instances where shampoo might be deductible, just not for yourself. So in those cases, you have to have receipts, but it's also really nice if you have separate business and personal bank accounts. Because if we know everything in the business account is a business expense, it's a lot easier to go through and do your bookkeeping. So commingling is a huge issue. Not having consistent bookkeeping or like a consistent workflow is another problem that we see. If you get to where you're 6 months or a year behind on your bookkeeping, it's really hard to then catch up and make sure that everything's accurate. It's also really difficult to know how your business is doing. So not having consistent bookkeeping is another issue that is really common that we see. Not using bookkeeping software. So I know as a small business owner, especially if you're starting out and you are bootstrapping, you're probably like, I don't have money for a business bookkeeping program. And that you don't have to have money. So let me kind of show you. This is on NerdWallet. And it's, the best accounting software for small businesses in 2025. It's got some good recommendations. So Xero is a great lower cost alternative to QuickBooks. Pretty much everybody knows QuickBooks, right? QuickBooks Online. However, QuickBooks can be expensive and QuickBooks just keeps going up in price. Xero's also, it's not cheap. The $20 a month that it's stating here, it's going to be more expensive if you want a really nice set of options in your bookkeeping software. FreshBooks, Zoho, QuickBooks Enterprise, all right here. These are paid. Wave, however, starts at $0 a month. So there is a free program that you can go get. I don't want to hear excuses about it's not affordable for me to go get a bookkeeping program. Wave is free. So if you have a $0 budget for your accounting software, Wave is there. It is available. Now it's limited. And so I want to make sure that you're aware that Wave is free for a reason. It's getting way better than it used to be. But Wave is a free option. So not having a bookkeeping software, there's really no excuse when you can use Wave. Okay. It is free. Now, it's not my preference for customers' books. We don't use Wave unless we have a client that just wants to use Wave for some reason. Wave it's free because it has limited features. Probably the most intuitive program is going to be a QuickBooks. There's also Sage. Odoo is one that is not on this list that is cloud-based and it's not that expensive, but you can pay for a slew of apps with Odoo and that can make it really nice. So not using a software, there's not really an excuse anymore. A software can make things so much easier. Software is really important. Excel is not a double entry bookkeeping software. Okay. Excel is not as good as Wave. So if you can't afford something and you're like, I'm going to keep it in Excel, our preference is just use Wave. Okay. Not understanding bookkeeping. I know that a lot of small business owners will say, I'm going to do it myself because I can't afford bookkeeping services. I totally get that. I'm not saying that you have to go pay somebody to do your bookkeeping. However, I want you to keep in mind that this is one of the more important features in your business, okay? If you do it incorrectly, the savings that you have saved from not paying for a bookkeeping service, you're throwing to the IRS. okay, and you don't have financial clarity. So I'm not saying that you can't do it on your own. You certainly can, but you need to educate yourself. Okay, you need to educate yourself on how to do it. So for reference, if you were to do bookkeeping and you were to come to me and say, hey, I want to learn how to do bookkeeping, I would say you should really take the first 2 years of basic college accounting. So basic and intermediate accounting. You should really take basic and intermediate. And you should take classes on the software that you're going to be using. Okay, if you truly want to learn how to do bookkeeping, getting certified in these bookkeeping softwares is not enough. They don't teach you accounting principles or basics. Okay, and then at the same time, you probably also want to take a tax class, right? So you understand the tax side of things. Because your bookkeeping, it's not just about, entering expenses and revenue, it's also about identifying what is deductible, what is not deductible, and the best way to use your books essentially for tax planning. There's options in Internal Revenue Code. There's certain ways that you can do things, all of which are legal, but have different tax consequences. And if you don't understand what those tax consequences are, you could be paying the IRS more than you should be. Okay. So not understanding is a huge issue. And then also not getting professional help. So I get it. Maybe you don't have the budget for it. Okay. If you have the budget for it, please go get professional help. I've heard a lot of people say, I have the budget for it, but I can't find somebody who knows what they're doing. And I will agree with you. There are a lot of CPAs, there are a lot of tax attorneys, there are a lot of EAs, bookkeepers, et cetera, that have no idea how to do bookkeeping. We see some sets of books from people who are certified, and they're a little frightening. So I totally get it. It's difficult to find good professional help. If you are looking for good professional help, we have bookkeeping services, but obviously, there's a bunch of other people who are qualified to provide those services. It might take a minute to find somebody who is good at what they do, but if you have the budget for it, highly, highly recommend having a professional help you. It may seem simple, bookkeeping may seem simple, but it has a really big financial consequence if it is not done right. So those are the main things that we see. So just kind of a recap, why you need to have accurate bookkeeping, why it matters, because it affects your taxes. Okay, it affects your bottom line, what you pay to SAM. If your bookkeeping is not right, your taxes are not right, and you might be way, way overpaying for taxes. It affects lending opportunities, so being able to lend or get loans in your business, access capital, and it can affect you selling your business model. It can be a huge issue when it comes to selling your business. You could not receive what you should because you don't have accurate. Okay, top 5 issues we see. Commingling. So you have business and personal stuck together in the same account. That's a problem. Not consistent. So not keeping your books on a consistent basis. And all of a sudden you are a year or 2 years or 3 years behind. You have no idea what happened in your business. That's an issue. Not using accounting software. Excel is not a replacement. You don't have the budget for an accounting software. Wave is free. Okay, Excel is not a replacement for a double entry accounting system. Wave is free. Not understanding what you're doing. That's a huge problem. Make sure you educate yourself if you want to do it yourself. And you might get a professional that doesn't know what they're doing. Make sure you vet your professional. And then if you have the budget, grab professional help. It makes sense. It's costly if you don't. And if you can take that off your plate, and make sure that you are paying as little in taxes as possible because you have a professional doing your books and your taxes, it really is worth it. So if that was helpful, please feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.